For years, the world saw a little girl in a wheelchair, bald from chemotherapy, frail from countless surgeries, dependent on a feeding tube just to survive. And beside her, always her mother, smiling, devoted, celebrated. Neighbors brought them meals, strangers donated money. The community called them inspirational. But what if I told you the wheelchair was never needed? The cancer was never real, and the mother people called a hero was actually a monster. This is not a horror movie. This happened in real life. In a quiet house in Springfield, Missouri, with a pink exterior and butterfly decorations on the wall. And it ended with a mother stabbed to death in her own bed, and a daughter who everyone thought couldn't even walk, suddenly standing on her own 2 feet. Welcome to Dark Files. If you're new here, this channel is your home for the darkest, most disturbing true stories the world has tried to forget. Stories that will make you question everything you think you know about people. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications because we drop new Dark Files every week, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Tonight's file? Gypsy Rose Blanchard, a girl the world pitied, a girl the world prayed for, a girl who helped plan her own mother's murder. But before you judge her, you need to hear everything, because this story is not black and white. It is deeply, disturbingly gray. Stay with me until the very end, because I promise you, the final revelation will completely change how you see this case. Let's open the file. Part 1. The perfect victim Gypsy Rose Blanchard was born on July 27, 1991, in Golden Meadow, Louisiana. Her mother, Claudine Blanchard, known to everyone as Dee Dee, raised her largely as a single mother after separating from Gypsy's father, Rod Blanchard. From the very beginning, Dee Dee told the world that Gypsy was sick. First, it was a sleep apnea monitor as an infant. Then doctors were told Gypsy had chromosomal defects. Then came the claims of leukemia, muscular dystrophy, asthma, seizures, vision and hearing problems. An intellectual disability that kept her mind at the level of a 7-year-old, or so Dee Dee claimed. By the time Gypsy was a toddler, she was in a wheelchair. By elementary school, she had a feeding tube. Her teeth, what was left of them, were rotting and eventually removed, with Dee Dee claiming the medications were causing dental decay. And here's the thing that makes this case so chilling. Dee Dee wasn't some backwater woman with no access to healthcare. She navigated hospitals. She knew medical terminology. She coached Gypsy on what to say to doctors. She kept meticulous medical records, all fabricated. And the doctors? Many of them believed her, because Dee Dee Blanchard was convincing. She cried in the right moments. She asked the right questions. She played the role of the grieving, exhausted, but never giving up mother with Oscar-worthy precision. Now let me ask you something, and I want you to genuinely think about this. How does a child grow up not knowing she isn't actually sick? That's what we need to talk about. Because Gypsy Rose didn't just wake up one day and realize her mother was lying. She was conditioned from birth to believe she was fragile. She was punished for acting healthy. She was told that walking was dangerous, that eating real food would hurt her, that the outside world was full of germs that could kill her. This is a psychological prison. And Gypsy Rose lived inside it for over 2 decades. Part 2. The charity, the house, and the gifts. After Hurricane Katrina devastated Louisiana in 2005, Dee Dee used the disaster and Gypsy's supposed illnesses to position herself and her daughter as the ultimate sympathy story. They received a Habitat for Humanity home in colorful foliage court, Springfield, Missouri, a pink house, customized with wheelchair ramps and butterfly designs that became both their sanctuary and Gypsy's cage. They received free trips to Disney World through a charity similar to Make-A-Wish. They were given concert tickets to see Miranda Lambert. They were celebrated at charity galas, featured in local news stories. Dee Dee was praised as the Mother of the Year by multiple organizations. Meanwhile, Gypsy Rose had no real friends, no real school, no phone of her own, no unsupervised access to the internet. Dee Dee controlled everything. And if Gypsy ever questioned her illnesses, there were consequences. Rod Blanchard, Gypsy's biological father, has spoken in interviews about how when he would visit, Gypsy seemed healthy enough to him. He noticed things that didn't add up, but Dee Dee was always there, always controlling the narrative. Now here is something I want you to really sit with. What is it called when a parent fabricates or induces illness in a child to gain attention, sympathy, and control? It's called Munchausen syndrome by Proxy, now more formally known as factitious disorder imposed on another, or FDIA. It is recognized as a form of child abuse, a form of medical child abuse. The abuser, almost always a caregiver, either fakes or actually causes symptoms in another person, typically a child, in order to receive attention, sympathy, and a sense of power. It is one of the most dangerous and least understood forms of abuse because the abuser presents themselves as the hero, not the villain. Dee Dee Blanchard was a textbook case, and Gypsy Rose was her victim. But victims, as we know, don't always stay victims forever. Part 3. The Secret Life and the Plan. Despite Dee Dee's iron grip on her daughter's life, Gypsy Rose found a crack in the wall. The internet. In secret, using a hidden laptop and online accounts Dee Dee didn't know about, Gypsy began exploring the world she had been denied. And in 2012, on a Christian dating website called Christian Mingle, Gypsy Rose, using a fake profile, met a man named Nicholas Godejohn. Nick, born in 1992, was from Big Bend, Wisconsin. He had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and had a complicated history of his own. But to Gypsy, he represented something extraordinary: freedom. Someone who saw her not as a sick child, but as a young woman. They communicated in secret for years. Their relationship deepened, and eventually, it turned dark. Gypsy began confiding in Nick about what her mother was doing to her, about the fake illnesses, the abuse, the control, and the two of them began to talk about a way out. Now, here's where the story becomes genuinely complicated, and I need you to hold your judgment for just a moment longer, because the next part is where people's opinions on Gypsy Rose are most divided. Gypsy Rose and Nick Godejohn began planning to kill Dee Dee Blanchard. Not just to escape, not just to run away, to kill her. In June 2015, Gypsy arranged for Nick to travel to Springfield, Missouri. She let him into the house. She went to a different room and put in earplugs, while Nick entered Dee Dee's bedroom. He stabbed Dee Dee Blanchard multiple times. She died in her bed. Gypsy and Nick then fled to Nick's home in Wisconsin. And here's where the case breaks wide open. Gypsy logged into a Facebook account, Dee Dee's Facebook account, followed by a graphic description of what they had done. People who knew Dee Dee were horrified. They called the police. A wellness check was performed at the Springfield home. And on June 14, 2015, police found Dee Dee Blanchard's decomposing body in her bedroom. Her daughter, the girl in the wheelchair, was nowhere to be found. Where is she? What happened to her? Is she even alive? That's what the world was asking. And then, the twist that shocked everyone. Police tracked the Facebook posts to Nick Godejohn's address in Wisconsin. Officers arrived, and there was Gypsy Rose Blanchard, standing up, walking on her own, without a wheelchair, without a feeding tube, perfectly mobile. The girl the world had pitied for her entire life had been able to walk all along. Part 4. The investigation and the truth. What investigators discovered next dismantled everything the public thought they knew. Medical experts reviewed Gypsy's actual records and found that she did not have leukemia. She did not have muscular dystrophy. She was not intellectually disabled. Her chromosomes were normal. She could walk, she could eat. She could hear and see without assistance. Her teeth had been removed, likely due to unnecessary medications Dee Dee had given her. Gypsy's actual age was also obscured. Dee Dee had told people, and even forged documents claiming, Gypsy was several years younger than she actually was. By the time of Dee Dee's death, Gypsy was 23 years old. Dee Dee had been telling people she was a teenager. Why would a mother do this? Investigators, psychologists, and journalists who covered this case all pointed to the same answer: control, attention, and identity. Dee Dee Blanchard's entire identity was built around being a caregiver to a sick child. It gave her community. It gave her sympathy. It gave her purpose. Without a sick child, she was nobody, so she manufactured one. For 23 years. Now think about this for a moment, and I want your honest reaction in the comments below. Do you believe Gypsy Rose had any other choice? Because here's what we know. She had tried to escape before. She once told a doctor she wasn't sick and that she could walk. Dee Dee pulled her out of that office and found a new doctor. Gypsy once tried to run away with a man she'd met online. Dee Dee found out, chained her to a bed, and smashed her computer. Every traditional escape route had been closed. Every cry for help had been silenced. Does that justify murder? That is the central moral question of this entire case. Part 5. The trials and the sentences. Both Gypsy Rose and Nicholas Godejohn faced criminal charges. In July 2016, Gypsy Rose Blanchard pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in a plea deal with prosecutors who acknowledged the extreme abuse she had suffered. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Nicholas Godejohn went to trial and was convicted of first-degree murder in November 2018. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The difference in their sentences reflects what investigators and the court ultimately concluded, that while both participated in the killing Gypsy, Rose was herself a long-term abuse victim, and the crime occurred within the context of severe prolonged psychological and physical abuse. In December 2023, after serving approximately 8 years, Gypsy Rose Blanchard was released on parole. She walked out of the Chillicothe Correctional Center in Missouri on December 28, 2023. She has since spoken openly about her experience, participated in a documentary series, written about her life, and, in her own words, is working on rebuilding her identity from the ground up. An identity that was stolen from her before she was even old enough to understand what identity meant. So where does that leave us? With a woman who spent her entire childhood as a prisoner inside a fake illness. With a mother who the world called a hero, and who was, by every clinical and legal definition, an abuser. With a murder that was simultaneously a crime, and for many people, an act of desperation. The Gypsy Rose Blanchard case doesn't give you easy answers. It gives you uncomfortable questions, and those are the questions that matter. When a system, the medical community, the charity organizations, the neighbors, the courts, fails to protect an abuse victim for over 2 decades, who bears responsibility for what happens next? When someone is raised inside a lie so complete that they don't know their own body, can we hold them to the same moral standard as someone who chose violence freely? And what does this case tell us about how easily we are manipulated by the image of suffering, especially when a mother and child are involved? I don't have perfect answers, but I believe these questions are worth asking. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know, do you feel sympathy for Gypsy Rose? Where do you place the moral weight in this story? If this file disturbed you, challenged you, or made you think, that's exactly what Dark Files is here for. Every story we open on this channel is real. Every detail is documented. Because the truth, no matter how dark, deserves to be told. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. It takes 2 seconds, and it means the world to this channel and to keeping these stories alive. And if you want to go deeper, our next file involves another case of identity, deception, and a crime that stunned an entire country. You're not going to want to miss it. Until then, stay curious, stay questioning, and remember, the most dangerous lies are the ones wrapped in love.